Hello, welcome everyone to live Q&A with senior teacher Tony Kosinec. It's great to be with everyone today. Some of you, especially after seeing you just a week ago, very warm welcome. Guillermo, I see you have your camera on. Thank you so much. If anyone else here is able to turn your camera on, it really helps Tony to get a sense of your questions better and create this warmth and feeling of connection among us. Also, if you're viewing on other platforms, you're welcome to type a question in the chat and our expert technology team will grab your questions and field them here to Tony. Also, if you can minimize the conversation, any discussion, sidebar, notes in the chat, that's also very helpful. It helps our tech team to quickly access your questions and helps everyone to stay focused on what we're trying to accomplish today. Just one other point, I see that Joanne shared that she's tuning in from Ireland. Thank you, Joanne. Everyone else, please, you're welcome. Just quick type in the chat on all the platforms where you're viewing from today. We love to know how much of the globe that we have covered in this broadcast. So it's always my honor and pleasure to work with and introduce Tony, senior teacher, musician, songwriter, most of all, very dear friend. And I know we all always look forward to these Q&A sessions. Tony?
Thanks, Mary. Also, if you're going to write questions in the chat, put them in the chat and not directly to Mary if you're in the Zoom, because she's got a lot of things to handle here, and it's just she won't be able to respond that way. So put your questions, written questions, in the chat. We do prefer the live questions with the camera because it gives a better sense, more liveliness, and it's clearer what people need when you ask your question that way. It's not just the students that are in KabU, and in particular in the Kabbalah Revealed course, that are joining us today. We also have people who are just tuning in on Facebook and on YouTube. So I'd like to start with just, for their benefit, a definition of Kabbalah, because there's lots of ideas about Kabbalah out there, and most not accurate at all. Kabbalah is really the science of connection. But connection is a lot more than what we normally think of as well. I'll give this person a call, or I'm close to this one, or I want to be in a community. Connection is extremely profound. It is basically the law of nature. And there's a way of expressing a definition of Kabbalah that we take from our teacher's teacher's teacher, Rav Yehuda Ashlag, Bala Salam, master of the ladder. He put it very succinctly, but he put it in a kind of a classical arcane language. Well, we'll explain that. What's the definition of Kabbalah? He says, to properly address it, I'll provide a reliable and lasting definition. This wisdom is no more and no less than a sequence of roots which hang down by way of cause and consequence, by fixed determined rules, interweaving to a single exalted goal, described as the revelation of His godliness to His creatures in this world. So Kabbalah deals with the way that nature works with us. It shows humans, what the rules of the game are, where the game board in fact is, how you even play it. And it gives people access to a method that allows us to see how nature, how the creator, how the creative force and the goal behind all of life and all of existence, how it interacts with us. It changes our ability to perceive this by first teaching us a method that shows what should we be dealing with and what do we not pay attention to. We tend to think of the forces of nature as being things like gravity and electromagnetism, and there's all these other sorts of forces in physics, but those are not the actual laws. Those are byproducts of a particular point of view. There are two forces that exist in nature. One is an intention, and forces are not material, they are intentional. They are desired outcomes. And we share in that. There's a part of us that, if we learn the method, can discern what intention is and whether or not we're using it. So there's one intention that has got to do with bestowing and fulfilling absolutely everything, and there's this other intention which simply wants to receive absolutely everything. And all of reality exists in the inner life of a person, and certainly in the inner life of the relationship between people. So the general law that puts these two forces together of bestowal and reception is a law that's expressed to us as love your friend as yourself. That is, that it combines both of these forces in a way that mimics the act of the law of nature. That we come to learn to receive in order to bestow. And we become similar in form to the guiding force and to the goal of our life and of all of reality. And the way that we see things, the kind of society that we build as a result of that, how nature responds, the sort of calming down of the boiling natural forces that we're seeing now, and those same boiling forces that are happening throughout society. It happens only when we learn, understand, and work with the way that nature works with us, and we do that in our inner life and with each other. That's what Kabbalah is about, and it changes our perception of reality, and in fact, it changes reality. So hopefully that will become clear as we answer questions here and share with each other. So Mary, let's start with the first question.
Okay, thanks, Tony. You mentioned the goal. So Stacy, viewing on YouTube, wants to know, do we have to worry about what happens in the future, or should we just focus on the now?
Well, we need to worry about what we want for others, because that determines the future. To worry about it really doesn't do anything, but to be engaged with wanting an outcome, or even a moment, even the present moment, to be filled with the same property as the law of nature, that really determines what we call future. Future is just the fulfillment that is not yet full enough yet, the living out of nature's goal for us in a more and more complete way. There really is nothing but this moment, and the moment is meant not to watch and ride on it, but to join into nature's force and to intend also the good and connection with others. So worry, no. Work, yes. Worry is appropriate in the sense that we worry that we'll let the moment pass and that we won't act that way, or we won't ask to be able to act that way. Because when we look at ourselves, we start out not being able to do that at all. If we want to be able to do it, if we take steps to try to be able to do it, we learn both what we are and what we are not, what still remains for us to do, and where that ability really exists. If it's not in us, then where is it? It's not in the individual, it's in the connection and the intention that passes in that connection. Okay?
And what about corporeal struggles, Tony? Kyler Ramsey, viewing on YouTube, is asking, how should I pray on money struggles? I want to use this time of hardship to fill with more light.
Well, Tyler, I don't know if you're a Kabbalah student or you aren't. I don't recognize the name, but Kabbalah is not about our material situation. It's about the forces that determine the well-being in the entire system. And as a result of being engaged in that, we also benefit from it. If you come to study and you learn this methodology, you'll see that really what a person needs is really very basic. We just need to sort of pattern ourselves along how nature works, is that a person's physical life deals with, or a plant's physical life, or an animal's physical life. And part of us is exactly the same as the animal level, but we have something else on top of it. But all that really needs is necessity. And so you don't need more time. You don't need to give up on your necessities or doing the things that a person has to do in order to, have a decent place to live, be able to take care of your family, make sure that you have food and all of these things, or that you're engaged in some, enjoyment and your family has a good quality of life. Not talking about wealth and not talking about extravagance, but what you need. You must do that. A person must do that. Then everything other than that is aimed in Kabbalah. It's aimed at the spiritual work and spiritual development. And that's enough, because that's the way that nature works. So we shouldn't go too far out of balance on either side of that equation. Mary?
Okay, thanks, Tony. Kevin Long, also viewing on YouTube. By the way, questions are pouring in from YouTube today, so that's wonderful. Kevin wants to know, what is our final state of awareness in Kabbalah?
I'll tell you, I'll send you a postcard when I get there. But the Kabbalists describe it as something that is like a complete inter-inclusion in the entire system, so that we partake in the awareness of the entire system, and we do that through a connection with other people. We feel everything. We sort of partake in the what you could call the divine mind, but that just means the force that animates everything. We are not limited by physical appearances. They don't divide us from any kind of connection or ability to think of and to fulfill the well-being of others. It's a completely different perception of reality. It's not that we're sort of just stuck in our bodies. We are really working with the actual reality behind the illusory level. This thing about bodies, the world, physical forces, and all that is a construct by the ego. Let's imagine you were in a glass globe, and spiritual forces, let's say spiritual objects, or they are intentions, real spirituality, is on the outside of that, and it comes to the wall of the glass bubble. But we don't see it on those terms. We take a paintbrush that's filled with egoistic paint, and we paint an image over that, and that becomes the world that we see. It's based on the kind of intention that we have, and that limits both our connection to and our perception of what exists in actual reality. So that state, that highest state, well, I can't even talk about the highest state. There's like one where we completely build our soul, in which we begin to really act with and for, as a conduit for the Creator's intention. And then there's more than that. But that state of correcting our perception is one in which we are completely caring for, loving, and infused into the whole system.
Okay, thank you for that question, Kevin. We have another question regarding the future, Tony, from Seraphim Winslow. Is the future nothing but the promise that the present will continue to enhance the quality of our connection?
That's an interesting way to put it. I mean, on one hand, future is just what remains to be fulfilled. But yes, it does improve, and actually every interaction that we have with the Creator and with the forces that develop us, they are all good and better. Our ability to recognize that that's happening, that's where our development is involved. Our efforts to be able to feel those things as good and that they are providing constant improvement, that's where our correction is. Because the place that what we're calling the future is already perfected, and as a matter of fact, so do we exist in final correction, but we don't allow ourselves to be engaged in that. Because there's a ratio of concern for self and a concern for others. And the higher the self part of that fraction is in us, the less we feel the things that are occurring as good, and the less we perceive them as doing good to us and to everybody. So it is just what remains to be fulfilled of the entire good is what we think of as future. Okay. Linda, can you spotlight me when I'm talking, please?
Okay, great. Next question comes from a YouTube viewer as well, Mars Q. I'm curious, if people in our lives begin to ask us questions, do you recommend a specific book or joining live here? How do you recommend that we offer this wisdom to people in our lives?
Yeah, a book is the best way to do it, because you don't want to impose your ideas. And first of all, when you're beginning to learn, man, is it hard to express these things. And it's easy to become confused, and then people, instead of reacting to the wisdom itself, they're reacting to you and the sense that you might be imposing something on them. Or so it's best to just to avoid that entirely and give them something complete that they can sit with on their own. I would go about it that way.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Next question comes from Nasib John Q. What should I do in my daily life in order to join nature in my evolution?
You can't do anything in your daily life that way. You have to be involved in studying the methodology, and you have to do it between you and the friends who are studying with you, and everybody who comes to learn, if you stay, who comes to learn in KabU eventually learns that part of the methodology and is provided with a working group. And that's the place where nature, your own nature and the nature of nature, reveals itself. If you try to do it in your daily life, you're going to get confused. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to have insights, that things are not going to be inspiring to you, that that nature won't speak to you. Of course it will, because it's always trying to develop us. But that's the slow way to progress. What the method is about is to speed up our development by using the method that nature uses to get ahead of its curve, because nature, if a person is not doing what nature does, it has to force them to do it. It evolves those aspects that are not consciously engaged through force, as you can see with what's happening in the world. Even just the nature, weather, the evolution of the planet, so eruptions and all of these kinds of physical problems that are part of the natural ecosystem begin to rebel. They seem to rebel, but what they're trying to do is they're pushing the reluctant development forward. If you're engaged in what nature is really doing, then you want to get ahead of it. You don't want to just be observing the beauty of nature or the power of nature to force us. So enjoy nature, but do your work with the method.
Okay, speaking of the method, Vina Gawanda, viewing on Facebook, wants to know, how do I learn about Kabbalah?
Well, you learn about it by learning it from people who have learned it from a lineage. It's not something that a person does on their own. You do it by joining KabU, which is a highly organized educational system that's based on authentic texts and on an authentic lineage of Kabbalah teachers, lineage that reaches back thousands of years. And it's a complete curriculum. Let me see, the next semester, so that you can begin learning this, is on October 31st. That's when it opens and the whole thing starts. And you can sign up for that by going to KabU, and please put the links in the chat so you can see that. There's two levels to the study here. If you're just sort of interested to find out what Kabbalah is about in a little bit more detail, you can. I got to open this thing up here. There are these sort of external courses that are not like a guided curriculum. They're self-study, and they're fabulous. They talk about they're films basically, but they also have some interactive aspects to them. And there's just lots and lots of topics that Kabbalah elucidates. They're multimedia types of things, and when you become a member, you have access to all this, plus the completely sort of organized and led curriculum that starts with Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2, and then it goes into deeper and more advanced work, until a person finally starts learning the practical Kabbalah, and you begin sort of relating it to the scope, context of your whole life. There's also, in KabU, there's all kinds of video on demand, music, all different kinds of programs and films that, that help you get a context and influence a person to begin to see and feel things differently. So if you sign up for that, you have you can have a week or two of great entertainment, or you can have a lifetime of a very different way of learning and living.
Okay, great. We have so many questions about purpose of creation, evolution, the future. Invictus 216, viewing on YouTube, is asking, is the purpose of creation the evolution of man into a companion for the creator of everything?
Yeah, that's a way of putting it. Yes. The purpose of creation is for us to become completely fulfilled, and there's only one thing that can fulfill us, and that is the only thing that actually exists, which is the intention to bestow, this kind of treasure chest of giving. This is actually what we are. There, a bottomless good, and a kind of an eternal, unchanging fulfillment. But fulfillment interestingly, is like ever, in order to feel it, it's ever expanding and ever filled. It's like the ultimate good of for which we were created. And that ultimate good is the creator, so to speak. It's like it's that original intention fulfilled in us, and we also carry that forward. So the intention is to evolve us through our desire and intention to the place that was originally intended for us when all of creation started. The Kabbalists call this thought of creation, they define it this way. The thought of creation is to create a creature and to completely fulfill it. That's what it does, and in the end, that's what we do for the whole system and for every connected relationship that we have only in order to provide a conduit of that light to others and to the whole system. We sort of become guardians of the galaxy. You know what I mean? We are the ones who bring forward all of this through us to others, and we need others in order to be able to even express that. It wouldn't exist. Just like we were created in order to fulfill this desire to completely fulfill, we need others in order to be in equivalence of form with that force. Mary?
Okay, thanks, Tony. Before I go to the next question, I just want to share all the points of connection today. We have almost every continent covered. We have viewers from the Netherlands, Quebec, Canada, Paris, Dublin, Salt Lake City, Utah, Texas, Lake Erie, North Carolina, Hungary, Turkey, Florida, Sacramento, California, Caracas in Venezuela, Virginia, Ohio, Colorado, Puerto Rico, Michigan, New Jersey, New York City, South Carolina, Montreal, Brazil, and Seattle. Thank you for sharing all those. Oh, I see Simon just posted Malaysia as well. You can continue to post if you haven't already, and I'll read more locations a little bit later. Okay, next question is from a viewer on Facebook, Dan Crosdell. Is it not enough for humans on Earth to act according to the Creator's intention?
Well, how do you know what the Creator's intention is if you don't feel it? Where is a person supposed to know what the Creator's intention is? The only way we can know that is by attaining it, by developing in a way in which we begin to feel that in us. There is no information out there that can make a person feel that, so that when we say know it, it means to be it. You can't learn that by ethics. Ethics don't even come close to it. Even, all ethical behavior is simply a byproduct of actually having that intention in one's heart towards others. You can't make a person do those things. So no, it's not enough. It requires connection with others for the purpose of doing what the Creator does. It's totally active, and it has to be a conscious effort. It can't simply be an external action, because there is no external reality. The only reality are intentional forces, what we call our inner life, but it's not actually your inner life or my personal inner life. It is life itself, and it's not expressed through individual expression. It only becomes expressed when it is a collective action and a shared intention. That's what nature wants. That's what the thought of creation is aiming us towards. So a person has to learn to do what the Creator does, become the friend of the Creator, and by being engaged in exactly the same work. And that doesn't just happen by itself. Mary?
Okay, great question. Thank you, Dan. Here's a beautiful question from Kevin Long. Is this a state of connection? Here and now, Tony.
It certainly is, because we're all we all have a similar desire here, right? You want to hear and be able to hear, and we want to share this with you, and the place where the connection is happening is in that force between us, in that quality between you wanting to hear and know, and we and the friends who behind the scenes who have who organize this and want to bring it to you. It's not us, it's not you. It is that connective quality. That's where the Creator is, and that is that connection. This is like momentary, like for an hour, a system that mimics the law of nature right now.
Here's another great question. Everyone's attaining for highest degrees and states today. Iggy Reyes, I recognize that name. Welcome, Iggy. Viewing on YouTube. Are states the same as frequencies? And is our work to tune ourselves as humanity to that highest frequency, so to speak?
Yeah, you could say that. I mean, it's a state is when you're dealing with the forces, and you are trying to order them inside of oneself, so that we come out of ourselves into some greater ability to nullify to the giving force. Like we sort of come out of the ego to a certain degree, to a greater degree. That's a state. That's one's next state. You can call it a frequency in the sense that once one tastes that, you don't forget it, and that becomes the baseline of your functioning. Even if you fall from that place, the frequency is now on your dial. You can with work you can tune it back in and go beyond it. So it's like anything that we attain as a next state, we never really lose. It's only there as footing, as a rung on which you get footing for the next state. Mary?
Okay, thanks, Tony. Next question comes from Nicole. tuning in from South Africa, viewing on YouTube. What is the correct attitude to have towards our desires? How may one use the wisdom of Kabbalah to actualize them?
Okay, well, first of all, we don't deal directly with desires. Kabbalah is about the intention above the desire, because all of our desires are, to begin with, in their source, they are self-centered. And we can't control that at all, and they don't matter. The question is, what is this desire for? Like, for whose benefit should this happen? Who do we want to benefit from this feeling? Since we can't control our desires, they don't actually originate in us. They come from nature. They're embedded in us. And they're part of a mechanism by which we function, how we can have relationship with each other, how we actually live. They're kind of, like you don't really understand or tell your liver to do any particular thing, but it still does it. Desires are like that too. Desires are organs of our emotional, spiritual life. And they happen to move us along. And we don't have really much to do with that at all. That's not where our work is. Our work is how we use those desires. We try to learn to use them for the benefit of the system. We're not responsible for them. We shouldn't feel ourselves guilty because of them. We don't try to change them. We certainly don't repress them in any way. They are fuel. They allow us to work. And they are almost always in opposition they are always in opposition to the goal that we have, to spiritual attainment, until we come to a point where we realize this so fully that there's nothing in us that can actually, in our nature, that can actually do this spiritual work, that the beginnings of a desire to have the desire that we're not thinking about ourselves, the desire to have a desire, that's like the beginning of intention. And that's where everything begins to change. That's where there's like this iron wall, and where a door appears in that iron wall, because we really understand that there's nothing about our desires and our nature that's going to do anything. Only wanting to be able to act without the personal desire being the issue, but the fulfillment and desire of those around us, of the world. Mary.
Okay, thanks, Tony. Guillermo, thank you for offering the option for me to read your question or for you to ask live. It would be wonderful if you want to open your mic and ask Tony your question yourself.
Yeah, let's have a live question.
Yeah, thanks,
Sure.
Guillermo.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question regarding falling or regress that you just talked about, Tony.
Yeah.
I've been on the retreat. It was a very special experience. The first time I worked on a group, on a camp, and I had the impression that sometimes I had a very clear mind, that I understood many things, that I had many answers. Yet now, some of the things I can't really think about them. It's like I have a fog on my mind. It's like a regressed. Is it possible, or maybe I'm just misunderstanding things?
Is which thing possible?
To actually regress spiritually.
No. There is a system. We don't evolve in a straight line. We evolve with divergence. Like, it's not like you just aim at the target and you go forward. One can only do that if your nature is already spiritual, which it isn't. So what happens is the diversion we feel as a fall. So first, there is an opening, and spiritual cognizance is something that when it happens to you, it's like, I'm never going to forget this. This is amazing. I now see how everything works. But because we don't really have spiritual vessels, it's just, that was kind of a gift. Then it goes, disappears. And we fall to a place where now we have to work. We have to be consciously engaged in that. And the degree that we fell, if like using a mathematical compass, for geometry, now when we ascend, we're that much higher than the low point that we were in. Being higher means that we overcome the necessity to receive that thing, and we work to give it. There's also help. We're never left in that place. That's why it's important to work with other people. If you depend completely, if I depend on myself, I'm going to stay in that place. It's what would you say? Religions call a crisis of faith. But that's because one has to see the mechanism and how it works, and that it's continually doing that to raise us higher and higher and higher. So it's not that you've regressed, you've actually gone into a place where it's actually an ascent, but we feel it in its opposite. One of the interesting things about our development is that because we're opposite to the light, when more light is revealed, we feel it as greater darkness. Because we're opposite, so we go, ow, no, it's not in my mind, I don't get it, I can't pull it into my head, or it feels like I'm losing something. Well, what we're losing is the identification with the ego, more or less. So it feels like loss or not good in its initial, in its initial radiance, but the thing to remember, and you need your friends to help you remember it, that's why the 10 is there. Some people are up, some people are down at any given moment. The thing to remember is that means you've been given a great deal more light that you are now going to be working with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Guillaume. Also, if you're here in Zoom, you can raise a little hand icon if you want to ask a live question. If you're not really sure how to do that, then our tech team will be happy to provide you the directions and show you how to ask that way. Next question from YouTube. You're mentioning being consciously engaged in this method, Tony. Mark Terrell is wondering, what is the method specifically?
I'm sorry, Mark, I can't tell you that in a paragraph. Or the method is a change in perception. It's like things that you already deal with in your life are what are in the method, but one is taught what they really mean and how to react and how to use it, and that is the method. And it's something that has to be tasted and attained step by step, and a person can be given the fundamentals of it over the period of a relatively short time. You can get the fundamentals. Then a person has to and the fundamentals really have got to do with definitions, and this is why the importance of definitions, and this is why I can't tell you straight exactly what it is, and even if I described it, that would not sound like a method to you. Definitions are the most profound foundation stones of reality in Kabbalah. Real definitions of spirituality, real definitions of matter and corporality are fundamental to be able to take the next step to even be able to perceive. Though it's simple, the methodology is simple, you need to have the correct foundation to be able to hear what these means. Now, I'll give you two things, okay? I'll give you two definitions, and I've already sort of touched on it. Spirituality is the intention to bestow, the force of bestowal. It is the intent to bestow. That is spirituality. It's what do you mean? Like that's like an emotion, or what is an intention exactly? That is the most powerful force in reality, and in fact, it is the only thing that exists. Matter is the desire to receive for oneself alone. And in fact, that's what we are. The entire universe, all of the cosmos, is that force in opposition to the force of bestowal. So everything we see physically, or we think that we're seeing it physically, is the force of the desire to receive for oneself and to be separated, which is all part and parcel of that. That's matter, and spirituality is the desire to bestow. So a person's got to get that. You have to understand that first and fundamentally, and then there are other fundamentals as well. Then one can begin to hear what actions of connecting with people, of judging or not judging, of what annulment actually means, and not the sort of mystical ideas that we have about it. So my advice would be, take the course. Get the fundamentals, move on, and change your perception of reality to the way that, to where nature wants to take us, and rather than trying to do this kind of work in our reason, because it doesn't work just in our reason. There's an additional perception that is there, an upper world, and even from the beginning, a student begins to get a taste of that, and you need that in order to understand the methodology. You can learn it real quickly, but you have to study.
Okay, speaking, that question poofed. Okay, next question. YouTube viewer Emmeline Smith wants to know, if not having a spiritual vessel is the culprit in stalled progress, how do we build that vessel?
You build it by efforts in connecting with others through using the methodology. We build a desire to have that desire, and it's something that's not built in the person. The system of nature, the ecosystem, as an example, is not about the individual parts of the ecosystem. Not just the plants, not just the animals, not the water, not the. It's the interplay of all of those things, and that is the vessel. It is the collective. It's human society, because humanity and the intentions of humanity determine every other level of nature. But not the egoistic desires and intentions of humanity, only the ones that are on the higher level, which is like the force that already guides nature. We need to go there because we need to be able to see, feel, and give to the entire system below us. That's where the vessels of bestowal actually exist, not in us, but between us. And that's what we have to learn to see and to relate with. So you get it by learning the method and learning how do we come out of ourselves, how do we begin to identify, what does love your friend as yourself or love your neighbor as yourself? It means to identify with all neighbors. It means to identify with the system as a whole as the self. Now, that's a mighty thing, isn't it? I mean, you stop seeing your own individuated body as your body, and you feel the whole of what was created against the creator or out of the creator in relation to that force that is the creator. And so now a person identifies themselves with the heart and soul of everybody else. That's where the spiritual vessels are. Our spiritual vessels are everything outside of us. There are no spiritual vessels inside of us. There's nothing inside of us except just this tiny point of light that wants to be connected to the system. Mary?
Okay, great. Before we go to the next question, I'll just read a few more locations. We have friends viewing from Arizona, Ambazonia, Cameroon, Kentucky, Stockholm, Sweden, Malaysia, Belleville, Ontario, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And thank you so much for posting those so we could share those here. Simon, comment ça va? How's it going, Simon? I think Simon hasn't missed a single.
Ça va très bien, Marie. Merci.
Très bien aussi.
Hello,
Yeah,
Tony.
I don't think Simon has missed a single Q&A. I just wanted to mention that, Simon.
Only one, I promise. Just can you remind us, Tony, what is the difference between intention and prayer? And did you put intention first or prayer first?
What was the second word? Intention and what?
And prayer.
Prayer.
Prayer, yeah.
Well, they're the same thing. Prayer is an actual need to be able to have an intention for others. Well, once we have a need or even make the request, that's already an intention. And the advantage, this is a more advanced question that you're asking here, for people who are viewing or who have no context. But the fact that one asks to be able to do this, that one has given up on their own ability to do it, means that one is turning to the place where bestowal actually exists. Hey, bestowal, I want to be able to bestow. So would you please bestow on my behalf to everybody else? This already is an alignment, right? So it's they're with actual intention, because it's not a prayer unless it's aimed at others, and it's not a prayer unless it's for others in the first place. But even with our inability to do it, it's still aimed at that. So it's like the little brother or the little sister of actual intention, but it's bound together. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Tony. I should have asking this in KabU.
Okay, merci, Simon. Two related questions, Tony. ARD 51306 is wondering if the work of Kabbalah, the Great Transition, in other words, is simply a slow, gradual event, or Yana on Facebook is asking more, is it like when an hour goes by, it feels more like 15 minutes on the clock. So time is malleable, stretching, shrinking. Is this a low process, this whole transition, or is it accelerating?
There's a few questions in that.
Sorry, there were only two. I turned it into a few questions. They're two related. Okay, ARD 51306 is a result of the work of Kabbalist. Could the Great Transition simply be a slow, gradual event? And Yana wants to know.
Okay, well, let's do that one, okay? And then we'll do the other. No, it's not going to be a slow, gradual thing. We're already being pushed. The question is, how do we feel, and what do we understand is happening to us? Do we see it as good? Do we understand it? Are we engaged with it? And are we part of it? So it's intended actually to happen quickly. Certainly to happen quickly in our hearts. If we do that, then the way that we go through it, or the way that the rest of the world, this is the job of people who are studying Kabbalah. Okay? Let's get serious here. Not that I've been joking, but it's nice to make a transition. All right, now I'm getting serious. The work of people who are learning Kabbalah and doing it is to make easy for the world this transition that's occurring, to provide so that it's the entry of the light into, and that change into humanity, to human society, and to the world as a whole, and the levels of nature, that there is an opening so that it doesn't have to break through and shatter, and it doesn't have to be born through suffering. It's that there is a passageway for the birth to happen. It would be, what if there was no opening in the mother? This is what we want to avoid. We are mother and father in this birth. We are providing the means for which the transition of the rest of the unawakened parts of us, which is all of the rest of humanity, to also be able to pass through by being the ones who go through first. That provides the opening of the door. That speeds up the process, and it makes it relatively painless. It makes for a healthy delivery of a healthy child into a more spiritual state. And the other question was?
Okay, the other question having to do with time is time moving faster. I feel like it's been 15 minutes, but the clock shows me that 1 hour passed by and I could not feel that hour.
Well, certainly it's completely malleable, because time is not a real thing. It's just whether we feel our vessel is full or not. When we don't feel that something is happening, that our vessel is being filled, then time stretches out. There's this constant hunger and waiting and lack of taste. When light actually enters the vessel, that we feel as present time. And there aren't really any boundaries to that. The thing we desire and what we are become the same thing, and so time apparently shrinks. But there was never any time there in the first place. So that tells me you're enjoying yourself and that you're receiving light, so that's great.
Doesn't signal the end of the broadcast. What this means is Tony's getting his toys out to play the Blitz. It means Tony has 3 minutes to answer as many questions as possible. Mind you, there'll be short answers, not to slight the questions. We just have a little fun with this to see if Tony can beat previous records. Okay, are you all set, Tony?
Okay.
Okay, got your buzzer there and your bells and whistles, and here we go. Is a method of Kabbalah a kind of hypnosis?
No, it is not.
What is an angel? Are you an angel? Sure.
Well, yes, I am, but no, an angel is a force of nature. It's what science calls forces.
Can you recognize a partsuf after delivery from the womb?
I don't understand the question, but I really like you.
Does the sprouting of the tree of life begin when entering into what's sometimes referred to as the soul of star chakra?
The tree of life exists before we do. It came from above downward, and we have to climb back up.
Much less spiritual and more confusion. I'm new to Kabbalah, convinced intuitively in the creator and the path, yet tech has revealed UFOs, spirits, visions, and mass hysteria / sightings. What's going on here?
Mass hysteria.
Can anyone enroll in your class?
Anyone, absolutely anyone, anyone.
How do we make the transition from being introverted to being the opposite?
Everybody's an introvert. That's what we have to learn. We have to learn how to connect and why we should connect. And the reason you don't want to connect is because...
If we're all one soul, is there a collective ego?
Yes, there is.
Where do I find a spiritual community?
In KabU.
Are we becoming aware of a natural state above time that has existed infinitely?
Yes.
Is Kabbalah occult knowledge?
Occult? Well, it's hidden because we don't perceive the way that nature actually works. It's our ego that hides it.
How is Kabbalah different from mysticism?
There's no mysticism in it. It's a science.
In what ways are Kabbalah and Judaism related?
Judaism happened after Kabbalah, and it's a memory device for Kabbalah, but it doesn't have any in it.
Is the intention to bestow a state of mind or an action?
It's an intention.
How can we help elevate humanity to connect with a broader consciousness beyond just Earth?
By you doing it.
How can we attain spiritual balance?
You're in balance, you're out of balance. That's how nature works.
Why are there different approaches to teaching Kabbalah?
There aren't.
What are the benefits of the material world?
It gives us a place to work.
Can I ask my friends to pray for me so I can find a life partner?
Sure. Why not?
How do I learn to give and be of service without it being an egotistical action?
If you really want to be of service, that's not an egotistical action.
How do we correct guilt for wrongdoing?
You weren't responsible in the first place.
What is true prayer?
It's a prayer for everybody else.
Record breaker! Oh, I'm excited.
That was easy.
Yeah, 22. Nice.
Is that really a record breaker?
It is a record breaker. Do you think I would get that excited if it wasn't a record breaker? Yeah, 22. Cheers, l'chaim.
Good.
Nicely done, Tony. We're
You're muted.
we're at 2:00. Should I go
Yeah.
to announcements?
Okay, I just want to say something about the 2:00 thing. People who are watching online, we are going to go now to a private session with the students who have been studying in the course. If you want to join that, you just have to become a member. There's a 14-day free trial. To become a member, you can check things out, and then you could also join that Zoom right away if you want to continue with this. And other than that, thank you very much. They were great questions, and I hope I wasn't too snarky. And other than that, announcements.
Okay, actually also signaled, we'll take one more minute, especially for those on Facebook and YouTube. You want to hear one more live question from Solomon Brown.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Solomon.
Please, I want to know, how do we connect our subconscious mind with the supernatural in order for us to, solve the puzzle of life?
How do we connect our what?
Our soul.
Our
with the
soul.
Supernatural force.
Okay, so let's define nature and supernature. Okay? Nature is the desire to receive from myself. The superior nature, or above our nature, is the desire to bestow. And there's a hard line and a void, a gap between those two things. The way that we connect is to learn how to work with others for their benefit, and that's what the methodology is about. And along with that, which seems like, oh no, I don't want to do that. That's what I tried to do in school. That's what they tell me I have to do to be a good person. I already did that. That's nothing. No. If it's done in the correct setting with other people under the guidance of the principles of Kabbalah, real Kabbalah, in the correct environment where the only goal is to reach the ability to do that and not to satisfy ourselves or any material thing. If you study this, that is, if you exercise in this thing, you begin to first sense your own nature, that is the natural. And as a result of that sense of what is naturally in you, you begin to sense what is opposite to that, and the interplay with it. And you begin, through your work with other people, to rise through that barrier to the supranatural, what is above our nature. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. Okay, before we go to the second hour, if you're on Zoom, stay tuned right here with us. And a few announcements. In order to join KabU, if you're not already a KabU member, then we invite you to join. You can see the links in the chats and all platforms, and you'll gain access to several Kabbalah courses from beginners all the way to advanced. You can join the world's largest online Kabbalah community. You can also ask questions of the instructors in the student forums, and you'll have access to KabU exclusive weekly webinars. Also, you get access to the next Kabbalah Revealed course with Tony starting on October 31st. To support KabU, you can support our content if you find it valuable in a number of ways. First of all, you can become a KabU member. You get access to all the courses. You are able to join a thriving community of like-minded spiritual seekers. You get video on demand, exclusive weekly live events, the live Q&A, and much more. And also you can make a donation. And we put that money to good use. We're all volunteers. So that goes to production and just maintaining our online services. So thank you for joining. Thank you for sticking around a few minutes past the hour. Always great to be together.
And thank you very much, Mary, for keeping me on track, and all the friends behind the scenes who are running all of this so that we can connect with you.